Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Palpable Pages. My name is Alicia if you don't know me. Um, yes, I wanted to make a book review about all the books I read for the month of January. I've said it in multiple other videos. January was Colleen Hoover month. Yes, my husband got me a bunch of Colleen Hoover books. I had never heard of her before, and all of a sudden at work she was everywhere. Every single break room, you could find a Colleen Hoover book in one of the stashes where we can like do book swaps and book exchanges. We leave them in the break room, take one, leave one. There was a Colleen Hoover book in every single break room. I saw a Colleen Hoover book in the hands of every single person I was walking by in the break rooms, lunchtime, downtime, whatever. She was all over my TikTok, book talk feed. I mean, you couldn't escape Colleen Hoover for a minute there. She's just blowing up. And she has like 20 something books. So I'm like, where has she been all this time? How have I not heard of this person? I don't understand how overnight she just got all this notoriety and she didn't have it before. I'm like, or at least not that I'm aware of. But yes, apparently this book, It Ends With Us. This book is what got her name out there on Book Talk because people read this book and could not stop until she gave them a sequel. This book, It Starts With Us. And I'm so grateful she did. I'm not one of those people that read this book and had to wait forever for this book. By the time I read this one, this was already up. So, and I can't think of any other book series I like more that I've ever read in my entire life. This book is that good. This book, It Ends With Us, it is my number one favorite book I've ever read by her. It's my number one favorite book I've ever read that's a romance, and it's my number one favorite book I've ever read, ever, period. This is my favorite book. I love it so much. And this was my very first Colleen Hoover book I've ever read. So that's kind of like, I felt like, oh my gosh, if I love this book that much, any book I read after this by her is not going to be as good. And I'm like, no, they're all that good. I have a stack. This is just my January stack. But yes, this stack. These are just the Colleen Hoover books I read in January. 5 books. So I feel like, working full-time as a nurse and being a mommy of 2, like juggling chores and things at home, like that's not too bad to read 5 books in a month. I don't feel like anybody reads as much as they want to read, but my New Year's resolution for this year is all the B's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B's. I have a bunch of other smaller resolutions for like kids, house, other things like that. But for myself, babe and babies. So that's, kids and husband, babe and babies. Like we have our resolutions together. But then my 3 for me was Beachbody, bowling, and books. So books, I wanted to just be able to take more time for myself, reading more books that I've been dying to read for such a long time, and I have been. Beachbody, because I love Beachbody. I started it a year and a half ago, and I was coaching for a while, and I just love it. It's something you can do at home. It makes you healthy. I love Beachbody. I love the workouts. I saw such results immediately, like within a few weeks. Like you feel different. I felt stronger. I felt my core was stronger. It's 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Do it. It's like set it and forget it. Like do it. Move on with your day. Have a great day. And then bowling. Beachbody, bowling, and books. Bowling. I gotta show you guys this. So this. I got my own bowling bag. And my husband surprised me with my own bowling ball. So look at this. My own bowling ball. It's got my name. I don't know if you can see that etched into it. I had my fingers measured and put in the ball. I love the colors. So it's been our new hobby together, going bowling at least once a week, maybe twice a week. I love bowling. It's been our new favorite thing between us as a couple. And I just got bowling shoes. Just got some like bowling shoes. So I'm excited about that. My New Year's resolution is to, I don't want to be some like PBA bowler, but bowling. It's just so much fun, and the kids have enjoyed it. So yes, beach volleyballing and books. There's my spill for my January resolutions. I hope you guys have some great January resolutions for the year. Get out and do some fun things for yourself. Yes, let's dive into our Colleen Hoover book review. So of course, 2 of my 5 books will be these 2 here. They're the same story, just progressed further. This one's more about giving us peace of mind and closure. This book is about Lily Bloom. I love her character. I love who she is as a person. I love how she's kind of like introverted and kind of distant. And that's how the book starts off. It starts off with her meeting Ryle Kincaid. She's on a rooftop and just doing something kind of like abnormal, and he's just like, what are you doing? Anyways, I love their meet cute. It's funny. It's very almost naughty, and it's like you can feel the passion. It's intense between the 2 of them. It's definitely like palpable pages. I love the beginning scene of how they meet, and then you learn that she is from a small town in Maine, went to college, graduated college, and then moves to Boston. And in Boston, this is where it takes place, first scene, meeting Ryle, and they get their very first thing that they have between the 2 of them. It's like their couple thing called Naked Truths. So I really like that. Anyways, through the course of the book, she discovers that she really hates her job. She works in business, and she starts her own business. That's not a spoiler. It tells you on the back of the book that she does start her own business, doing something that she's always wanted to do. It's very clever, very neat. Wish we had one of those businesses in my town. But yes, I have a full book review on this in another video. You guys should go check it out. Watch the whole book review. I love how delivery. I love how Lily and Ryle are with each other, and how like he sets her nerves on fire. And the whole like beginning like to middle of the book is just about how Ryle is like one of those people that's like a commitment phobe, doesn't want to like be in a relationship. He's not that person, and she's very clear, like, I'm not a one night stand kind of person. I'm, you know, I put my heart in it, and I can't not do it that way. So it's like they have this push pull between them. And then I love like her best friend she gets in this series. That best friend is someone who like brings out the best in her, but also is like fun and bubbly, and I like their relationship together. I can't tell you any more about the best friend because that's kind of a spoiler, so leave it at that. But yes, I love what she does. But then essentially in this book, she has these diaries from when she was a child, and when she's going through a really, really rough time through some abusive things. I don't want to go too far into it. Just know that there's abuse going on kind of behind closed doors, and it's terrible. But then she discovers these diaries of hers from back when she was a child, and the book kind of goes back and forth. Like there's a scene of now, what she's dealing with now, and then there's the glimpse of her past, of her first love, Atlas. And eventually, this is not a spoiler, it does tell you in the back that there is like a love triangle here going on once Ryle randomly shows back up into her present. And then she has to make that ultimate decision while also kind of being in the lowest, most despairing part of her life, having this horrendous moment. And I love the bounce back. I love her, how she goes through all these things with such grace. And I love the ending. I love the beginning. I love every scene in the middle, every page in between. This book is absolutely amazing. I 10 out of 10 obviously would recommend if it's my favorite book. 5 stars. There's no way it's anything less. I'm very glad, because a lot of people told me to start off reading Verity. I almost did read Verity first. I love the book Verity, but this is near and dear to my heart. I love this book. You guys have to read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So next on the docket is going to be It Starts With Us. Obviously, I had to read this follow-up book, and I'm so happy I didn't have to wait between these books, and I had them both together already, so I could just go right into the next one. But after seeing all the TikToks on Book Talk, like about calling out Colleen Hoover, how she had to like film this book into a movie, but make a sequel to it. I mean, that's really why she became famous, and all of her other books got discovered. And I'm so happy because I'm happy I have this closure. And I'm also happy that I've discovered her as an author, period, because now I like own every book that she's ever written, except maybe two. Her new one that just came out, I can't wait to get my hands on it. Never Never. And then there's a couple of other of her older ones that I just discovered that are out there. They weren't at the bookstore when I went there, so I'll have to get my hands on those like beginning books. But yes, it ends with us and it starts with us. Best book series I've ever read. It starts with us. It says every ending has a beginning, and I can't even like talk about this book too much because it'll give away the ending of this book. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll have to make a separate book review just for this book so that people, after they've read this one, I can give you a solid book review without spoiling this one. So it's Lily, Ryle, and Atlas is continuing on their story after it ends with us, like, leaves off. It picks right back up here, and I love what she does with the story. It's not as fast paced. There's not as, the intensity isn't there either, but it's like closure. You need to read this book. It is like, I mean, once you read this one, I won't have to like do any convincing. You're gonna read this one anyways. I'm pretty sure there's not a person out there that can read one and not the other. Anyways, I'm sorry I can't give any more details without spoiling the other book. These two books, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I started off reading them. They're my very first Colleen Hoover books ever, and I was okay, yep, done. I'm convinced. Buy them all. Buy them all. Okay, let's move on. So next, I read Reminders of Him. I immediately did want to go right to Verity, and then I started reading Verity a little bit, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I kind of got a little inkling of what it was about, and someone I work with kind of confirmed for me what I thought to be true. I'm like, oh, I really wish I didn't know. I wish I didn't know anything about it. So I kind of put Verity back down. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this yet. I don't know if I can like handle it. Like, anyways, Verity is an amazing book. I'll get there. But I did read this one next. My husband had just read this book and he told me I have to read it. So I read it. And it's called Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This book, I was like very emotional. Like there's some scenes in it that if you don't cry, you're just not a human. You're not a person. I don't even know where your heart is. Caged, locked away, block eye somehow. It's about this girl, Kenna Rowan, and it starts off immediately telling you that Kenna has been in prison for 5 years for the murder of her boyfriend, Scotty. That's just terrible. I mean, murder. I mean, is it her fault? Is it not her fault? Like, I don't know. It's terrible. There's a big story. The whole thing is about this story. The whole book is about uncovering what happened between Kenna and Scotty. And like, Kenna knows, obviously. And she's like the only one that knows what really happened. And I feel like she was just in such a state of shock and that she just couldn't handle it being as young as she was because they're teenagers. And whoa, what happens between them is so sad. And it's sad that she never got to give her whole story. And I'm like, maybe she didn't because she felt guilty. But there's a big story there, and you have to uncover it when you read the book. It's just sad. And essentially, so Kenna, she has a baby, and baby's name is Diem because Carpe Diem, and seize the day. She names the baby Diem. And she, obviously going into prison for 5 years, doesn't get to have custody of her child or watch her baby grow. So the book kind of starts off with Kenna being released from prison, wanting to track down her child and see if she can, she just wants to know about her. Just maybe, even if it's just from a distance, like just let me know about my child. Let me know if she's okay. It's going to be the motherly instinct. You can't just not know. And at first it doesn't paint Kenna in the best light because initially her very first scene, her meet cute scene with Ledger, is not the greatest. It makes her seem kind of vulgar as a personality. Like, what are you doing? I don't know why you're doing this. But I feel like her emotions are just like turned off. Like she's just numb, I feel like, after everything she's been through. And then don't judge her from the beginning. Keep reading, and then you'll find out. Big spoiler. a big detail about Ledger and her daughter, and there's so many other, like, oh, you just find out this and then this and then this and this. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, of course. But Kenna, she goes through so much, and I feel like we feel everything that she feels, and it's so intense. These pages are so palpable, and the story is so good. And I even have my favorite characters picked out of who would play everybody in this story, and I'm like, I have a little image that I put on TikTok of who would play Kenna and Ledger and the parents of Scotty and Scotty. I'll make a whole separate book review just for this book and go a little bit more in detail, tell you my opinion, and tell you who I think should play the characters. It's such a good book. I'm really happy that I read it as my second Colleen Hoover story, but a third book. I mean, because I feel like this is like one story. So yeah, this is one story. This is my second story, third book of Colleen Hoover's, and amazing. I'm like, so at this point, I just picked a random Colleen Hoover book, just any random book. Nobody I knew has ever read it. Husband hadn't read it. I haven't met anybody at work that has read it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this one. I found this one. Like, we went to Walmart and they had a little 4-foot section of just Colleen Hoover only, and I just went dink, 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 picked up one of every single book she had there, and this was just randomly sitting on my nightstand, and I started reading Regretting You. So, Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, like, the paper, the letter on the front, like the pieces, like, that is such a big part for me. Oh my gosh. It's like perfect cover, perfect book cover, perfect book title. Wow, this book, I don't know how more people haven't been raging about this one. It's kind of like one of her other ones that are kind of under the radar. She has like the Hopeless series and the Maybe Not and Maybe series. And she has like, it ends with It Starts With Us. It's going to be a movie. She's got Verity. Like, all of these books of hers are like amazing. But I'm like, why isn't this one up there too? I don't get it. This is such a good book. Such a good story. It's terrible. Yes, it starts off the main characters being Morgan Grant. Morgan Grant is a mom. She's got a 16-year-old daughter, Clara, and her husband is Chris. And they've been high school sweethearts. And it immediately in the beginning of the book, it goes to a scene of when they were younger. There's Morgan, Chris, her sister Jenny, and Jenny's boyfriend Jonah. And the four of them are like just a glimpse of them in the past, hanging out as like a group date, couple date. And just kind of paints a picture of what it was like back then for them. And then you find out that, of course, Morgan gets pregnant by Chris, and so they get married. Chris is the only guy she's ever been with. That's her high school sweetheart. And they have Clara. And Clara, like, I like that Clara has a love story of her own in this book. So there's like two love stories that happen. Two love stories that happen in this book. And it kind of like goes back and forth between like glimpses of the past and some kind of secrets, mysteries that you uncover. And then, like, not very far into this book, maybe chapter 2 or 3, immediately just pull off the band-aid and give us a shocking, terrible thing that happens, this traumatic event that happens to her husband, Chris, and another character in the book. This is traumatic and it's terrible, and she's having like the whole book just having to recover. And so I'm like, I can't even tell you so much about this as a book review, because I just spoiler after spoiler after spoiler after that. I'm like, I can't say anything. I'm like, this book is like intense. What happens to her is intense. It's something that I wouldn't wish on anybody. I don't wish this would happen to any person out there. I feel like characters together as a whole, they like really have to figure out a lot of things about themselves, what you can live with and what you can move forward with knowing. And I feel like we see Clara like dealing with all these things also, kind of like it shows you like as a parent, if you're not truly honest with your child, will they resent you? And like if you're not honest with someone, their imagination is just going to run wild anyways. Like, just tell them the simple truth, so it's not like all these crazy things that you really think is happening. But yeah, it's about a mom-daughter relationship, so I really like that, because, you know, my daughter Kenzie, like, I can imagine her being 16, and I can't even imagine what that's going to be like. but it's about like Morgan and Clara. It's their relationship together. It's Morgan's like relationship like with her husband and her relationship with her sister. So like there's a sisterly relationship there, but the main relationship in the book is between Morgan and her daughter Clara, and them going through so many things together. And I love this book. I love the ending. I love how she handles everything that happens to her. I can't say really too much else about it. I mean, let's see. Morgan puts her own dreams on hold when she's pregnant, married too young. Clara doesn't want to follow her mom's footsteps. Obviously, that's talking about Clara's love story and her mom finding out about it when Clara's 16. Yes, so. But that peace is shattered when Chris is involved in a tragic and questionable accident. There's long-lasting consequences. So many other things get revealed. With each passing day, new secrets, resentment, and misunderstandings make mother and daughter further apart, and it might be impossible for them to fall back together. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this book had some tears. Amazing. You should read it. She should get a lot more like notoriety for this one too. It's a good book. Definitely 10 out of 10 recommend. And I feel like I need a drum roll. I need a drum roll for this one because after all of those books, I finally was like, okay, every Colleen Hoover book I've read up to this point has been amazing. I'm going to read Verity. I'm just going to bite the bullet. Even though what I think happens, what I was told happens, I'm going to read it. Verity. And I'm so grateful because I'm just like, this book had me stressed out. This book, I have also a dream cast I have picked out for who plays the characters in this book, and I'll post that in the actual, like I'm going to post a separate video of just this book only with more details, and like I'm going to have thoughts at the end. Like for people that have read it, I'm going to have thoughts and spoilers at the end of that video. I'm like, there's just too much to say. And the minute I got done with this book, I took a picture of it. And even though my sister and I, we don't read the same books at all. Like she is more like fantasy books out there, like Cinder, like the robot Cinderella book, and like fairy tales and things. And like I do like some fiction books. Like I love Harry Potter. I liked when I was in high school, I read The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings series. Like obviously that was really good. But I'm just like, it's not my main thing. I love reading more, I like reading more thriller, suspense, mystery kind of books. So we just kind of read different things. I still took a screenshot and I was like, you have to read this. There's no and if or but. You have to read it. And she immediately bought it, read it that same week, read it the day that it came in. And then she was like texting me immediately, what did you put me through? Like, she just texted me WTF, all caps, and then we had to call and just talk about it. I feel like that's mainly why I have a book channel, just because I need to talk about these things. I had to talk about this to somebody. I'm like, you're going to read this because I need to talk about it. Like, I need to see, like, talk about what just happened. And my husband read it too, so I'm like, he got an earful. Even though he already knew everything because he read it before me, he still got an earful. Verity, this book is freaking amazing. It's so good. And this book has been like the reason why I discovered Colleen Hoover around work. Let's see. This book is the reason I discovered her on TikTok. But I knew It Ends With Us. I just didn't realize it was by Colleen Hoover. I'd heard of It Ends With Us. I just didn't really pay attention to who it's by. It's just a name I remember hearing. But then I knew Colleen Hoover because of Verity. And this book, it's a little bent. Oh, it's terrible. I cannot believe that happened. I'm so frustrated that happened because I kept it in my book bag and I shouldn't have done that because then it got bent on another thing. Terrible. Treat your books better. Don't do that. Don't let like that bend happen, that crease, that. Anyways, New York Times bestseller, best-selling author, of course. So this book is about Lowen. Lowen is an author, and immediately in the beginning of the book, she's being told that she has to go like meet these people, representatives for another author, about finishing a book series for Verity. And she's like, I usually do these things over the phone, over email. Like, why do I need to go meet these people in person? This is really unfortunate. I don't want to do this. apparently it's a very like hush hush meeting. Like they want it under wraps, like non-disclosure agreements are going to be signed apparently at this thing. So Verity in this book series and this world, Verity is like our J.K. Rowling. Like she is some famous author that has read this book series that everyone is like obsessed with, and all of a sudden she needs like a ghostwriter to help her finish it. And Lowen is like intrigued, like why me? Why did they pick me? I don't understand that, for one. For two, why do I need to meet in person? Why is this all hush hush? This is just a very suspicious situation. So Lowen, when she's going to this meeting at the beginning of the book, has a very weird meeting with our other main character, Jeremy. And this meeting is like, wow, like immediately, first 3 pages, you're just like, okay, you wanted me to read it, I'm gonna read it. You didn't have to do that. Like, that's kind of insane. Like, okay, you got my interest. I'm paying attention. I'm reading the book. Why did you have to go there? Colleen Hoover, Colleen. Like, we were gonna read it anyways. Like, she does this scene at the beginning that turns into a movie. They'll need to dial that down, maybe. Anyways, very, very suspense-catching scene. Terrible meet cute between 2 characters that are possible love interests. Terrible meet cute. But yes, she gets to this meeting. Essentially, they make agreements, and she agrees to be a ghostwriter for the series, and she is like needs to go through all of Verity's things, all of Verity's office at her home. So imagine going to like J.K. Rowling's house. Like, what do you think that would look like? I haven't really Googled it or researched it. I'm not saying some stalker, but I'm just saying, if you were to imagine J.K. Rowling, like her house, her estate, going into J.K. Rowling's office of papers and books and things, like, what do you think an author's office looks like that's been writing that long and has that many books, a book series, and like paperwork and books and like all these notepads everywhere? She has to go into her office and like go through everything and try to sift through things to try to figure out how to finish the series. By the way, she's never read the book series. Should have mentioned that. She never even read this book series, and she needs to now go into this author's office and figure out how she's going to finish this book series. So it's not like an easy task. She's picking up this really heavy task. And while she's reading these books, notebooks of just ideas from Verity, comes across Verity's diary. And I'm like, that the diary is this whole scandal is Verity's diary. She finds all these secrets, and now she's torn. She's like, do I tell? Who do I tell? What is going on? What is happening? And like this big tragic thing happens to Verity. And so it's just like, I can't give too many spoilers. Let me see what the back says real quick. Jeremy is the husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford. He hires Lowen to complete the remaining book series. I already told you she goes to her house, uncovers a chaotic office, unfinished autobiography. Diary. It was going to be Verity's autobiography that wasn't finished, but that's what she thinks. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. Also, Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, so it's like scandalous. Like, she's like, I have a crush on this person, but I know what he's been through, and he's married to Verity. And I'm like, this is wild. This whole story is wild, and I need to give it a whole separate book review. I need to talk about the Dreamcast, because this is like going to be a movie. Like, if it ends with us going to be a movie, this is going to be a movie. It will be eventually. Fingers crossed. So yes, I'm going to stop there, because the rest is going to be for the full book review. I'm going to stop there. These are the books that I read for the month of January. So yes, these are the books I read for the month of January. This is the order I read them. It ends with us. It starts with us. Reminders of Him, Regretting You, and Verity. I had a very good month in January. I was very happy with my choices, and I'm very happy I continued on after this. I read Ugly Love. I have also purchased Heartbones. I have like all of her Hopeless books and Maybe series on my bookshelf. I'm like, I don't know, I really wanted to like keep reading just Colleen Hoover books only, and just just absorb everything that she's ever written. Like, just, you know, that scene when you're a child It was like, used to be a commercial where like you literally open your brain and just shove the books in. Like, let's just do that with all Colleen Hoover books. But then I'm like, if I ever get into a book rut, I know I can just pick up Heartbones or pick up the Maybe series and just like immediately get right back into books. Because sometimes you read a book and it's just like long and daunting and drawn out, and you're trying so hard, and then you don't finish it, and you're like, anytime I need to read or want to read, I know I need to finish that book, but then I'm dreading it. You're right. Has that ever happened to you? Like, you get not writer's block, but book block and a book rut, and you're like, okay, I need to have a book I know is going to be really amazing and have that on the back burner for when I get in a book rut. And I feel like that's what I'm doing with some of her Colleen Hoover, the rest of her Colleen Hoover books. I'm going to have them on the back burner in case I get in a book rut, or in case like this thrill suspense kick I'm on, I can't stop. Maybe just pick up another one of hers I know is going to be really good. They have mystery, thrills, plot twist, suspense, romance, naughty scenes, so many in her books. Like, not terrible, but like, yeah, it's there, just to mention. Anyways, happy January. I hope you guys have a great 2023. I hope you guys have some fun things in store for you this year. For me, Beachbody Bowling and Books, the bees, and oh goodness, here's to me using my new bowling ball even more. I can't wait. Yes, bye.